So today I'm curious about two things. One, how hard is it to add a Google login to my existing website? I'm looking to add some OAuth so I don't have to keep signing in using my Vercel admin credentials. Two, who can do this best? Codex or Claude Code? They've both gone through a series of pretty good updates recently, so I'm curious to see who can figure out the intricacies of the Google OAuth process better. Let's go take a look. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a branch of my production code in Claude Code and then do the same thing again in Codex. And I'm going to call this Claude OAuth test. And then over here in my Codex window, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So currently, this is my bookmarker website. It's just a website that I have for storing books that I want to read or series that are still being written so I can keep track of where I'm at in the series. Problem is right now, I am just using the simple Vercel login information to keep it secure because it is using an Anthropic API key behind the scenes. I don't want to open it up just to let anybody use it and run up a big tab on my bill. But that means that it's sort of a one-off sign-in and I can never remember my username and password. So I want to change this to use just a simple Google sign-in and then allow authorized users if I can. That's at least my goal for today. So I'm running Claude Code in a terminal window. I'm using Warp. And then as usual, I've got a cursor project open in the background for Claude as well. I'm not using it as Cursor, the AI coding tool. I'm just using it to kind of keep track of my files and make any edits that I might need. Usually I only ever need to edit something like environment variables, but it's also nice to see if they're even here. In this case, for some reason, I didn't even have a sample environment file in my project, I guess because of the way that it's deployed to Vercel, but I had to go look at an older development version and copy it over and add a few things. So that was really nice just to have Cursor available to make my edits in. Likewise, I have Codex running in another Warp window. I also have the branch of my Codex project in another Cursor window. So I've got blue for Codex and orange for Claude, if you're keeping track at home. So the next thing I'm going to do is give the same prompt to both tools, trying to add Google OAuth to this project, and I'm going to let them both run and see what they come up with. Currently, this project is in production running on Vercel. The user authentication is handled by the username password management system in Vercel, but it's a little cumbersome. I want to add a Google OAuth login to this project, and then I guess add like an allow list of email accounts that are allowed to access the website. And away we go. Add the same thing over in Codex and let them both go to work. So as expected, right away, Claude Code came back and gave me a really nice summary. It's telling me the current state, which is basic HTTP authentication, and then there's an implementation strategy, including what packages need to be installed, the database changes need to be made, how to configure the Google OAuth piece, and the updates that are going to be needed. It gave me this really nice little trade-off list, pros and cons of the way it's currently working versus what I'm asking for, and then it's got a few questions about how to manage it. Do I want to manually edit the database? Should we create a page for management? Do I want to allow signups so that anybody with a Google account can just come in? Or do I want to have a list ahead of time? Should I kick off anybody that's already logged in? These are great. These are questions I did not know to ask, so I'm really happy that Claude came up with them. Codex, meanwhile, is just off and running and implementing, updating packages. There may come a time when it comes back, when it gets further along, and asks me some of these same questions about user management. But with Codex, it is possible it's just going to go ahead, make the decisions for me, and do what it thinks is best. For me in this project, I am okay with that, but it is always interesting to me to see the differences between the two. Claude very much feels like it's holding my hand and working along with me. Codex feels like it is taking control of the project and just doing what it thinks needs to be done. Meanwhile, Claude Code is like very nice and buttoned away and tells you what it's doing. Let me use the Explore agent. It feels a little bit more professional, like it actually knows what it's doing. That might just be me though. So for the actual Google OAuth credential piece, Claude was the first one to come back and give me step-by-step instructions about what to do to get the secret code pieces that I needed to allow that connection from my website to Google. I've done this before when I was setting up my N8N server, but I was just following a video that was explaining it to me as I went, and I remember it being a little bit confusing and definitely not obvious what I needed to do. So I really appreciated Claude Code sort of walking me through this. Even with that, it wasn't perfect, and I kind of stumbled through some of the Google stuff and then couldn't find the client secret. I had to go back to Claude Code and say, I have the first piece, I don't have the second piece, I don't know where to find it. And it again gave me really nice step-by-step instructions about where to find that. So kudos to Claude for that, for sure. All right, so Codex did come back. It actually waited until the very end. It's completely finished with all the coding, and then it gave me sort of the steps that I need to take. In Google Cloud Console, create OAuth credentials and configure. That's the step-by-step instructions it gave me. And then it's telling me I need to create some new fields locally in Vercel before deploying. So not super user-friendly, and sort of this is the comfort thing that I was talking about before. Claude just holds your hand a lot more and actually tells you what you need to do, acts as a co-worker with you. Whereas Codex is just a lot more technical and says, here's a task, it needs to be done. Good luck. Now, I'm sure I could ask Codex how to do that and it would probably tell me, but it doesn't ever take that initial first step to say, here's a task that needs to be done. Here's how you do that task. It just always skips that extra helpful step. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about Claude Code. Likewise, in Claude, it is also now done coding. It's completed everything. It has run some of its own tests and is giving me a list of what needs to be changed in Vercel. Add the following environment variables and tells me even the things that I don't know how to generate, like a new secret, and what the production redirect URI is that I need to put into Google to get some of the authorization steps complete. It's just those little extra steps that I might not even necessarily know I need until I'm 3 steps down the road. I really always come back to feeling like Claude is just so much easier and so much more comfortable to use. Obviously, that's a matter of personal preference. If you're really well versed in this stuff, you might prefer that it not tell you how to do a bunch of steps that you already know how to do. But for me, this is all very new to me. I really appreciate it going that extra mile and really helping me each step of the way with what the parts are that I need to do. All right, so Claude Code is done. It came back, it tested it, it made a few changes, it tested it again, and it came back, told me it was ready to go straight to GitHub. And I said, whoa, can we test this here first? I now have my very own Google login. It did give me a couple of steps to add myself as an admin, and then it gave me a way to add other users' email addresses to the allow list. So overall, I am super happy with what Claude came back with and just how simple it made it for me, how it really helped me understand all the little pieces and parts that were outside the scope of anything Claude could do, and just really held my hand through the whole Google OAuth setup process, because it's not simple, or it's simple, but it's not obvious. Okay, so this is ready to go. I could go ahead and deploy this, but let's see what Codex came up with. So Codex says it's complete. It tells me I can go ahead and test it. When I fired up the server, it failed spectacularly. All right, Codex, how about you run a quick test for me? Interestingly, I asked it to test, can't leave npm run dev running inside this environment, so you need to run it yourself. I don't understand what that means. The harness closes the command once it detects the long-lived process. I don't know why Claude Code can do that and Codex can't. I have even bumped the approvals up to full access, which I don't always do. So I really don't understand exactly why it can't test this, but so far it can't. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that whole mess back into Codex and ask it for help. So I did have a little bit of back and forth with Codex. It turned out that in the environment variables file, I just had an extra set of quotation marks in my client secret, but Codex misread that as it needing no quotation marks, and it did need some quotation marks, just not extra quotation marks. And the fact that it could never run the development server at all to see the output that was being generated was a little bit confusing to me, because it's certainly run other development servers for me in the past. So I'm not sure what was going on. And like I said, I even gave it full access. So I'm not sure what that was about. So in the end, they did both get something up and running. Here's what Codex generated, and here's what Claude Code generated. Do I have a strong personal preference? No. Do either of them look exactly like what I'm used to looking at? No, but that's sort of to be expected, because I think what I'm used to looking at probably comes straight from Google, and neither of these did. But of the two, I have to say I still kind of prefer the look of Claude Code. It feels closer to what I'm expecting to see. So in the end, both Codex and Claude were able to deliver a fully functional Google-enabled OAuth authentication to my website. So I'm super happy, and I will work with them to deploy that to production. I'm going to be honest, I will work with Claude to deploy that to production. Codex still, it did get the job done, but it's just always feels like a struggle. Every step I have to make an extra effort to ask it more details or to do something manually that Claude just automatically takes care of. So in the end, I am constantly coming back to, in my personal opinion, I just think Claude is a better tool. At least for me, it's just so much more comfortable to use, and it makes me feel less like banging my head against a wall in the end. So did they both get to the finish goal in the end? Yes. But going along for the ride, I definitely know which one was a more comfortable ride, and that was clearly Claude Code. Once again, congratulations, Claude. All right, that does it for today. If you enjoyed the head-to-head combat, think about giving a like and maybe a subscribe. I'm sure I'll be doing more of these in the future. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.